What if Modulo Yuji was at the Kyoto Goodwill Event? When Hanami attacked, what if Modulo Yuji, with more than 300 years of experience, was there instead? Instead of a teenager who had barely entered the world of Jujutsu. Imagine this. After the events of JJK Modulo, Yuji lived out his long life and eventually became a cursed object. His soul traveled back in time. Yuji opens his eyes and in the middle of a heated battle. Right in front of him, Todo and Hanami are going all out against each other, and the memories start flooding back. He's in the middle of the Kyoto Goodwill Event. Todo came to fight him. They shared a moment and Todo was in the middle of teaching him Black Flash. Then Hanami attacked them. Yuji is shocked, because this means Shibuya, Gojo's stealing, Nanami's death, the Culling games, Gojo's death. None of it has happened yet. He has a chance to change everything, and this time he decides to take a different path. First he thinks of what he needs to change, but what he didn't expect is that he'd actually killed one of his closest friends. Currently he's in the middle of the Kyoto Goodwill Event, and this is actually the turning point where everything started collapsing in the original timeline. Yuji decides to take advantage of the current situation and take down Mahito early. But the problem is, while his soul from the future is powerful enough to take down Mahito, his body isn't there yet. He hasn't swallowed the rest of Sukuna's fingers yet to gain that curse energy boost. He also hasn't ingested the Death Wound paintings yet to strengthen his foundation. So he has to rely purely on his current body and the techniques he carries from the future. Todo, I need to leave right now. Just buy some time. Gojo sensei will be here to take down Hanami. Yuji takes off the moment he says those words. Todo is surprised. He notices something off about Yuji. He doesn't look nearly as energetic as he did a few seconds ago. Yuji runs at full speed. He wants to intercept Mahito at all costs. However, what he doesn't expect is for Hanami to bypass Todo and follow him. Todo follows Hanami as well and intercepts him. He knows that Hanami and Juzo are just distractions. The actual target is the vault. Mahito steals the fingers and Death Wound paintings. Kenjaku's team used those fingers on Yuji during Shibuya to awaken Sukuna. If he kills Mahito now, Nanami and Nobara would be saved. Kenjaku won't be able to activate the Culling games without Mahito's idol transfiguration. In a way, he could save the world with just one fight. With that in mind, he didn't hesitate to even think for a second. Yuji outruns Hanami and arrives at the locker, but he still isn't fast enough. By the time he arrives, Mahito has already stolen the fingers and Death Wound paintings. He is ready to escape. Yuji intercepts him and the fight immediately breaks out. Yuji's heart is burning with anger, but that doesn't cloud his judgment. Whoa, didn't expect to see you there. Itching for a rematch, are you? Mahito taunts him, but Yuji keeps his cool. His attacks are far more refined compared to their previous fight. Mahito realizes that he's not fighting the same Yuji as before, and it immediately frustrates him. How did you improve so much, so fast? He asks, shocked to say the least. And the worst part is his idol transfiguration doesn't work on Yuji, because Sukuna is still inside, and he can easily counter Mahito. He barely escaped the last time they fought, so Mahito doesn't even want to risk trying again. Yuji's soul attacks, on the other hand, are slowly but surely wearing Mahito down. Mahito then senses that Gojo has broken through the barrier, and immediately turns tail, using everything he has to escape. Gojo arrives right after Mahito leaves. He stops Yuji from pursuing Mahito, allowing him to escape. Yuji's angry that Gojo intercepted him. His anger is so overwhelming that it even overpowers the joy of seeing Gojo again. Why did you go to the vault? How did you even know someone was attacking it? Gojo asks. Yuji frowns at the question. He doesn't even know how to answer it. He could tell him that he came back from the future. Gojo examines his curse energy fluctuations and says, there's something different about you. You went to the vault. The curse stole the fingers and Death Wound paintings. The curse that attacked you killed Todo. And yet you're basically unscathed. It's all too suspicious. The only silver lining is that the fingers are gone. But there's no change in your cursed energy level, which means you didn't ingest them. The pressure from the others is going to increase a lot. So you better be prepared. We'll talk about this later. Don't do anything reckless like this anymore. Todo's death shocks Yuji. He just assumed that once Gojo broke through the barrier, Todo would be safe. But because Yuji ran off, Gojo prioritized Yuji's safety over everything else. Hanami and Todo clash and Todo ended up dying. Yuji sits with that guilt for the next few days, before finally making a decision. He meets Gojo and tells him everything, about how he came back from the future, and about everything that's going to happen next. Details about Mechamaru's betrayal, Kenjaku taking over Geto's body, Shibuya, the Culling games. He reveals it all. But Gojo is still skeptical of everything. He examines Yuji and notices that Sukuna is still inside Yuji's body. I'll look into it. That's all Gojo says. Yuji realizes why Gojo doubted him. Sukuna's presence on top of that, Yuji's actions during the Kyoto Goodwill event were undeniably suspicious. He has to prove himself, and Yuji already has a plan for that. First, he enters the innate domain and meets Sukuna. I can't believe the future version of you became so powerful and ruthless. You're making me proud, Sukuna says with a grin. You know? Of course. I'm constantly connected to your soul. I could sense the changes in you before you even noticed them. Now you are just like me. The only difference is I embraced how destructive I am, while you still keep trying to be the good guy. But too bad, you indirectly killed your friend. Yuji's pissed. Say what you want, because this is the last time you're ever going to speak. I'm going to end you today. Yuji and Sukuna collide. While Sukuna is initially amused, he realizes that Yuji's soul is far stronger than he ever imagined. After a brutal fight, Yuji suppresses Sukuna's soul and absorbs it. Using this newfound power, Yuji continues training, preparing for what's coming next. He still doesn't have all the fingers and death whip paintings he needed to fully strengthen his body. But aside from that, he's in the best condition possible. Yuji tries to tell Gojo about Mechamaru's betrayal, but just like all the other information he shared before, Gojo doesn't fully take it seriously. But this time Yuji plans to use this information to earn more credibility, so he makes his move alone. Meanwhile, Kenjaku and Mahito already reach Mechamaru's location. They restore Mechamaru's body only for him to use his cursed puppets to double-cross them. Just like in the original timeline, the fight is brutal. But before Mahito can finish Mechamaru off, Yuji shows up. Even Kenjaku is shocked, and frustration immediately burns inside him. He never expected everything to go perfectly with Mechamaru's deal, but he believed Jujutsu Society would eventually figure it out. And seeing Yuji arrive here alone only confirms that suspicion. Mahito and Yuji clash. Unlike their first fight, Yuji dominates this one black flash after another, each one directly targeting Mahito's soul. As the fight progresses, both Yuji and Mahito grow more excited. And for the exact same reason, Mahito's soul is evolving. He is finally becoming complete. Yuji knows that once Mahito reaches that state, he'll become more vulnerable. Mahito, on the other hand, believes he can still win the battle. Within minutes, Mahito enters his final form. And in that moment, when Yuji is about to land his finishing blow, Kenjaku makes his move. He switches places with Mahito. Mahito goes after Mechamaru while Kenjaku engages Yuji. I'm sorry. I have a lot of use for him. I can't let you kill him. Yuji dodges Kenjaku and charges straight toward Mechamaru, who is moments away from death. He desperately tries to figure out how to protect Mechamaru while taking them down at the same time. But instead of continuing the fight, both of them suddenly turn tail and retreat. Yuji immediately understands why. Gojo and Hanami are coming together. Yuji almost curses them out on the spot. You should have come earlier, he says under his breath. Mechamaru and Yuji are safe, but the two cursed spirits escape. The only bright side is that Gojo finally starts trusting Yuji. Mechamaru's betrayal is revealed, but his punishment is temporarily put on hold. Because from everything Yuji revealed, Mechamaru could be extremely useful for their counterattack plans. Soon it is time for Shibuya. This time, with Yuji's help, they are thoroughly prepared. When they arrive at Shibuya, Gojo is ambushed by Jogo, Chozo, and Hanami just like before. Kenjaku's reveal doesn't really work this time. Gojo expected to see Geto's face, and seeing it only makes him angrier. Even the civilians are no longer an obstacle, because as soon as Kenjaku revealed himself, Mechamaru revealed his cards, or rather, his puppets. He coordinates with the entire team and evacuates the civilians efficiently. Gojo kills Hanami. Kenjaku hurriedly activates the prison realm, but this time Gojo simply dodges it. Jogo and Chozo are completely overwhelmed. Meanwhile, Yuji looks after Nanami and Nobara. In the previous timeline, both of them died because of Mahito. Well, not fully died, but supposedly both died. He's extremely cautious this time around, but no matter how much he searches, Mahito is not there. Yuji's side has a massive advantage this time. Yuji soon finds the two followers of Geto. After defeating them, he takes the fingers from them. He ingests them directly. Then he heads straight for Gojo to help him. Gojo looks at Yuji and smiles. He finishes Jogo off and hands the rest of Sukuna's fingers over to Yuji. Chozo, as per Yuji's request, is spared. Yuji triggers Chozo's memories and brings him over to their side. Kenjaku, cornered and desperate, suddenly grins. "Where's Mahito?" Yuji asks. "You're awfully fixated on him." "Why is that?" Kenjaku asks, and Yuji freezes. Kenjaku has started noticing Yuji's unusual fixation. You're different. You shouldn't be this informed. You shouldn't know this much. Yuji simply stares at him coldly and asks again, where is Mahito? He already served his purpose. Yuji's eyes widen in shock. Kenjaku is amused by that reaction. Before Yuji can recover or Gojo can make his move, Kenjaku activates the Culling games. You've spoiled my plan. I no longer have any hope of achieving my goals. So if I'm going down, I'll drag the entire world down with me. Gojo and Yuji are momentarily distracted by the Culling games activating. Taking that chance, Kenjaku escapes. Yuji feels frustrated. He still couldn't stop any of this from happening. He tried so hard to kill Mahito and spare countless people from suffering. And while he did succeed in some ways, he also accelerated everything. Because of Yuji's attempt on Mahito's life all the way back during Kyoto Goodwill Event and Mechamaru's hideout, Kenjaku realized that Yuji knew far more than he was supposed to. And because of both encounters, Yuji unintentionally accelerated Mahito's evolution. So after they failed to kill Mechamaru, Kenjaku absorbed Mahito, who had just achieved his final form. He kept all of this hidden from the other disaster curses. And of course, even Yuji never expected Kenjaku to make such a desperate move so quickly. But he did. Now, after being pushed into a corner, Kenjaku unleashed the Culling games as his final act of desperation. Of course, there are some positive outcomes as well. Because of Yuji's involvement, Nanami and Nobara survive this time. Dagon still dies at Toji's hands. In the original timeline, Haruta Shigemo pushed Megumi into a corner during a desperate battle. Megumi had to unleash Mahoraga as a last resort to save his own life. But this time, while searching for Mahito, Yuji intervenes and saves him. On top of that, even Naobito's ending survives. Yuji isn't particularly fond of him, but with him alive, Maki and Mai won't be captured. Maki's heavenly restriction won't fully awaken. Still, from what he knows about his senior, Yuji is sure Maki would rather keep her sister than gain that power. Most importantly, there is no massacre in Shibuya. With Gojo not trapped in the prison realm, there is no execution order. Yuta doesn't have to play double agent and hunt Yuji down. All in all, Shibuya is a massive success, except for the one small hiccup with the Culling games. Now he has to enter the battlefield and wipe out these ancient sorcerers and curses before things spiral out of control. The rules of the Culling games are pretty much the same, but out of pure vengeance, Kenjaku makes one critical rule change. All civilians trapped within the Culling game barriers are denied any choice. In the original timeline, they were given the option to leave, and most people chose to leave. Only a few chose to stay behind and become sorcerers. But this time Kenjaku doesn't give them that choice. They're all trapped inside. And because of the point system, the ancient sorcerers and curses won't hesitate to kill them. So before the battles begin, Yuji, Gojo, and the rest of the team focus on minimizing casualties and preparing their strategy. On top of that, they take several additional precautions. Just like in the original timeline, Yuki and Chozo are sent to guard Tengen, but this time Yuta is sent there along with him. After that, Yuji finds an isolated location. Gojo stands guard while Yuji makes his final preparations. Yuji swallows all of Sukuna's remaining fingers along with the Death Womb paintings. The fragments of Sukuna's soul that had completely dissipated within Yuji begin to return. This time Sukuna's soul is much stronger, but Yuji is of course prepared. Within the innate realm, their domains collide. Both of them attack each other with cleave, dismantle, and shrine. It's Yuji's soul targeting black flashes that make all the difference. In the final moments, Sukuna looks at Yuji and asks, "Before you erase me, I'm curious, what became of me in your past life?" Yuji stays silent for a moment before showing Sukuna the memories of his past life. Sukuna smiles bitterly and says, "So in the end, this was always where my path led." His soul is absorbed by Yuji's, disappearing completely. Sukuna no longer exists in the world. Yuji absorbs the cursed energy along with the Death Womb paintings, reaching the highest state his body can achieve. Soon, it is time for the Culling games. Yuji takes over Tokyo Colony number 1. Even in the original timeline, he defeats Haba and Hanyu with ease. Now in his fight with Higuruma, Yuji completely overwhelms him. Even when Higuruma uses his curse technique and puts Yuji on trial, Yuji is declared not guilty. Megumi also defeats Reggie with ease. Things go similarly in Tokyo Colony number 2. The Sendai colony is where things change the most. In the original timeline, Yuta was the one fighting there, but this time he's sent to guard Tengen, so Gojo takes his place. He sweeps through Takako Uro, Kurorushi, and Ryo Ishiguri. For Megumi's sake, he restrains Yorozu instead of killing her, allowing Sumiki to survive. With Sukuna gone, they finally have the luxury of caring about outcomes like this. Nanami, Nobara, and other sorcerers also fight in the Sakurajima colony. The team quickly brings the games under control. Things are going smoothly, a little too smoothly in fact. As if to ruin that balance, Hajime Kashimo suddenly shows up with his usual stubbornness. "Fight me, Sukuna," he says to Yuji. Yuji stares at him blankly, before realizing just how obsessed this guy is with fighting Sukuna. But the problem is Sukuna is not there anymore. Still, Kashimo refuses to accept that. He stubbornly insists on fighting anyway. The team, having finished their tasks, gathers together to finally wrap up the Culling games. They're all still under pressure because the non-sorcerers are still trapped inside, and they still need to bring the barriers down somehow. So nobody has the patience for Kashimo's obsession right now. Gojo is ready to put him down on the spot with a blow. But then, an announcement echoes throughout the Culling games, making everyone turn their attention toward Yuji with hostile gazes. Kanjaku knows that with Gojo alive and Sukuna suppressed, he has no chance of succeeding. But he makes one last attempt to kill Tengen. Sure, he won in the end, but it was still an extremely difficult fight. And with Yuta involved, Kanjaku can't even get close to Tengen. Yuta cleanly cuts Kanjaku's head off. But of course, Kanjaku refuses to go down quietly. He changes the rules of the Culling games one final time. "I am transferring the authority of the Culling games to Yuji Itadori. As long as he is alive, the Culling games won't end. Let's see how you survive this," Kanjaku thinks to himself as he dies. Yuji is stunned by the sudden announcement, and so is the rest of the sorcerer world. Now, aside from Yuji's friends, everyone else looks at him with hostility. Yuji can't help but smile with irony at all of it. He knows what they are thinking. Yuji has to die, for the sake of the greater good, and for the sake of all the civilians trapped inside the barriers. There is no other way. The situation feels eerily familiar to the time he swallowed Sukuna's fingers. Back then, every conservative figure in the Jujutsu society wanted him dead, all for the so-called greater good, to ensure Sukuna never appears in this world. He was condemned to die, but at that time Gojo uses overwhelming power and influence to suppress them, and kept Yuji alive. But this time, even he has no solution. Thousands of innocent non-sorcerers, people who have nothing to do with any of this, against Yuji's life. Gojo is about to speak, but he's so furious he almost wants to revive Kanjaku just to kill him again. He's about to speak when Yuji smiles serenely and says, "I think my time has come." Cursed energy gathers inside his body and he slowly begins to disintegrate. Both of his lifetimes flash before his eyes in his final moments. He thinks of what might come next. 68 years later, Sumerians would still come. But this time Gojo could still be alive. Without the destruction caused by the Culling games, Jujutsu Society wouldn't be so desperate anymore. They might finally have a way to stop Dabura. And maybe Gojo would arrive at the same conclusion as Yuji, and use Maru's power to change the world. This is what would have happened if Modulo Yuji was at Culling games. But what would have happened if Modulo Yuji found Gojo's reincarnation in Modulo? Or what if Modulo Yuji trained Sukuna?